Hello, everyone. My guest today is Greg Mercer. He founded and is now CEO of JungleScout, also a successful entrepreneur, angel investor, and experienced Amazon seller, along with influential educator. He loves big data, good coffee, and traveling the world while leading a global team. Greg, you ready to take us to the top?
Nathan, let's do it.
All right, man. So this is a hot space. I hear Amazon in terms of ad spend is now creeping up in terms of Google and Facebook competition. You're I would say, have the timing and the product right. Help us understand what you're doing, how you're playing in the space.
After quitting my job, I used to have a real job, I started selling physical products on Amazon. And one of the barriers I found of growing that business was finding profitable products to sell. One thing led to another, and that's ultimately how I started JungleScout. So JungleScout started as a product research tool. So it helps you find profitable opportunities or products on Amazon. Over time, that's grown into like a more of a full suite offering for Amazon sellers to help them do everything from find opportunities on Amazon to do their keyword research, find suppliers, and now launch products on Amazon and even manage their business. So different third-party Amazon sellers use our tools to really help grow their businesses.
No, I love that. Help me understand, generally speaking, though, the SMB, mid-market enterprise, what's the average customer paying per month or per year to use your tech?
Average customer is small. We're talking usually solo entrepreneurs or small businesses with one or two employees. So I think our ARPU hovers around $60 a month.
Okay, fair enough. That's good. So kind of a long tail approach here. I want to talk more about your growth channels you're using because you can't really afford to put touch on a $60 a month sale. Before we do that though, put this on a timeline. When'd you launch?
Launched February 2015.
Okay, 2015. And I'm scared to ask this question because I don't want it to be a provocative thing. What was the first item you sold on Amazon? It wasn't something like, crazy, was it?
No, it was a stool for like when you're gardening, like a little gardener stool. Not a gardener, not interested in it, but yeah, it was a good opportunity on Amazon.
Why?
It all comes down to just high demand, low competition, right? So it's like, that and margins. So it's like, what are people buying on Amazon? What are the competition levels like? And how much money can you make off of it? And that was a product in relatively high demand. I think there was only like one or two other people selling it at the time. The margins were good. I was buying it directly from a factory in China and sending it directly into Amazon's distribution centers. So that's still how I choose products today.
What's good margin?
Usually around 30%.
Okay, so I'm making this up. You buy it for $10 and you're going to sell it on Amazon for 13, something like that.
There's different Amazon fees and some things like that. So,
or are you I guess what I'm asking is, are you talking like gross margin or net margin you're optimizing for?
If you're selling the product for $30 on Amazon, what's typical is Amazon takes like, let's call it roughly $10 in fees. If you're buying those goods for $10, then I'd be making 10% or like $10 margins there, roughly 33% in that situation. But to me, that's what I think of as good margins on Amazon.
I see. There are a lot of tools like yours that I feel like have priced out a lot of these arbitrage, kind of margin arbitrage opportunities. Would you agree with that or no? Do you feel like there are still opportunities to sell at 30% margins on Amazon?
Those opportunities are still there. Most of the people who are really succeeding today are doing more than just ordering kind of the same product that's already for sale on Amazon. Most of them are figuring out how to make improvements on products. And, a lot of people who shop on Amazon have probably started to notice this, but you're seeing less and less well-known brands on Amazon. It's more and more common for these small brands or private labelers to be doing well on Amazon. And the reason for that is like they're cutting out a lot of the middle fluff. They're just ordering these products directly from the factories, sending them directly into Amazon. They don't have like these large marketing budgets and all of these other kinds of expenditures that these other big companies like whatever, Black & Decker and Bose and whoever else has.
Yeah, that makes good sense. All right, so 2015 you launch. How did you get your first 10 customers on the platform?
I was fairly active in a number of Amazon communities, primarily on Facebook and Reddit. I already built up a certain amount of rapport with these communities. After building a really crappy MVP, recorded a little screen share, posted in this Facebook group. I was like, hey.
Which Facebook group?
I don't know the name of it.
Was it the Amazon the Amazon sellers, like FBA group?
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, that's exactly right. It was like a Amazon private label seller or whatever. If you search that on Facebook, there's hundreds of them now. But yeah, like, a few of those. So we just posted a little screen share and just said like, hey, would anyone ever be interested in buying something like this? If so, I put a little squeeze page together. I was like, enter your email address and I'll let you know when we launch. So I got, I think, roughly 100 emails from that. And on launch day, launched it to this giant list I had and sold 11.
That's hysterical. Okay, 11 sold. And how many customers now today?
We have about 210,000 active weekly users.
Okay, you said that very intentionally. What do I need to know about those users?
We have, so we have multiple SaaS products at this point. We're consolidating them down into one. We also have a Chrome extension. So the majority of our users are using our Chrome extension. It's it's still the most popular, where we have the majority of our users to date. And then we have a pretty healthy group of customers using our SaaS product as well.
Yeah. I guess so. My question was, so you sold those first 11 via this kind of MVP put together, which I love it, how scrappy that was. But how many have you actually scaled today in terms of SMBs that are paying you, monthly or annually to use the technology?
It's so real quick. This will make sense if I give a little more of a timeline. Originally launched the Chrome extension as a one-time fee. So it's like, it was like, hey, pay me $100 and you get to use this thing forever. I kept the Chrome extension like that until about a year ago. Now you can purchase the Chrome extension either monthly recurring or yearly recurring, primarily the latter. And then in fall of 2015 is when I launched the SaaS app. So about, we'll call it about a third of those active weekly users are still paying us. The rest bought in during like the lifetime deal to the Chrome extension.
Yeah. So let me see if I can repeat that back to you and you tell me if I get it right. Of the 210,000 kind of active SMBs that are using you to sell, about a third of them, right? So that would be about 63,000 of them are paying some form of recurring plan, monthly or annually. The rest got in on a one-time kind of fee back, many years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Give or take a little. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. That's very good. Google right now is being very aggressive in terms of people updating Chrome extensions, data related things. They're making you spend 15 to 75 grand on a third party to actually verify and validate the Chrome extension. Are you still bullish on the Chrome extension store for user acquisition?
I think I am. I actually haven't run into many of those problems. A lot of people have these, all these kind of horror stories around it. But, like the permissions that our extension requires are pretty tight. We don't have permission to do much. And I think most of those people that Google's kind of targeting are these people who just have permission to do everything on your computer. And a lot of people don't realize that. And obviously that's a security threat and why Google's cracking down on it. Yeah. So like ours, like it only has access to like the JungleScout APIs and can run on the Amazon store. So like it doesn't have a lot of threat like these other ones do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then if you look at your total base on your, just talking paid, not free, on your web plus your Chrome extension, what percent of your user base would you say are using the web versus the Chrome? Like, is it like a 50-50 split, or do you say power law is like 80-20?
60% of paying users have both. The other 40% are mostly just extension.
Okay, got it. And the extension one is basically $197 one time for the year.
$197 a year, correct?
Yeah, $197. Okay, very cool. Let's get into some other stuff here. So have you bootstrapped the company, or did you decide to raise and take dilution?
Bootstrapped.
I love that, dude. All right, and team size?
120.
All remote?
No, we have an office here in Austin, office in Vancouver, and we just opened up an office in Shenzhen.
Okay, why Shenzhen?
A lot of Amazon sellers now are coming from China.
Makes sense,
so like
right? They're going, these Americans
China.
Are buying so much and they're doing arbitrage. We'll just launch them ourselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, churn's critical in any SaaS company. What's your churn say and how do you manage it?
Our churn by typical SaaS standards is fairly bad. How do we manage it?
Wait. Hold on.
Every month.
I would say your price point, right? I would call this the SMB price point. Typical annual churn rates, I would say, are anywhere between like 50 and 80%, right? So they're churning almost sometimes up to 80% of their entire revenue base yearly because SMBs go out of business. So are you doing kind of better or worse than that, would you say?
The worser end, or maybe a little bit worse than that.
Got it. So somewhere around 80% revenue churn annually.
Yeah. And honestly, we're calling these SMBs, but like these are like very, very small businesses to small businesses.
Like micro business.
Yeah. Sure we have some customers that are huge and make lots of money, and Nike and whoever else and a few of these big brands, pay for it too. But the way our pricing structure is set up is like they're not paying us anymore. So like, with that many customers, it's like, less than 1% of these really big guys are using.
Yeah.
Less than 1% of our customers are these big guys.
Yeah. That makes good sense. Okay. So north of 80% revenue churn annually. Do you have any mechanisms to drive? And is anyone on your 120 person team focused on driving expansion revenue on the cohorts, or no?
No. Interview me again though in like 2 weeks, and we'll have rolled out. We have a new pricing structure rolling out, like different plan types, a different pricing structure, and with that, we'll be able to focus a lot on it. It better helps us price for these different size customers that we have, and will better help us get more expansion revenue, especially during like Q4 when sales are higher for retailers.
Yeah. The reason I ask is, you actually have a nice pricing axis where you're tracking against the number of products that people are tracking with you. You go from 40 to 80 to 150 at $99 a month. And you also upsell on a second pricing axis, it looks like, based off number of users. Are you seeing those kinds of upgrades from $39 a month to $100 a month happen organically? Or is that something you have to have a CS or an AE on to drive?
We don't have that many happen organically. Our upsell rate is pretty darn small. But yeah, with the new pricing package that will be rolling out here shortly, the tiers are much better defined about like kind of what functionality you get.
Yeah, no, that makes a good sense. Talk to me about acquisition today, right? So the Chrome extension was a big one. Obviously, you have the web browser as well. For fully weighted to get a new customer that's going to pay you whatever your average is. I think you said it was $60 a month. What are you willing to pay to get them?
Right now, I'll tell you this: our CAC to LTV ratio is right around 5 to 1. It's like, I think last time I did the math, it was like 4.9 to 1. So let's call it 5 to 1.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess, what do you assume lifetime value is? That can be a tricky metric.
It gets fairly tricky because just the different products and different plan types and stuff.
Again, by the way, that's why I ask, right? Like the pure math version would be to like literally take your 80% churn, 1 divided by 0.8 would say 15-month lifetime value, right? And then if you assume a $60 a month average times 15 months, that would be like a $900 lifetime value. But like you said, you had people paying $16 a month or $197 a year. It's very different than $60 a month. So I guess what I'm asking is, like, as a CEO, how aggressive are you comfortable being in terms of payback period? Are you comfortable with 12 months, or you want 6 months, or you want 1 month?
No, I'm comfortable actually going higher than what we have right now. Like the payback period right now, is only like, let's call it a couple months. I'm happy going higher than that. We don't have anything limiting us to be able to do that. We just need to continue to scale up our marketing efforts.
Yeah, I mean, part of the challenge in any business like this is you have to like be so creative to constantly find new channels where there aren't diminishing returns, where you can actually pour $1 million into, right, and get back the users that you want. So, I mean, do you have some of those lined up that you want to test, or do you feel like you're stuck right now? There aren't other channels you can use?
No, I think there's plenty of expansion opportunities. We, roughly half of our signups come from organic. And if you just look at keyword lists, the ones that we're not ranking well for on Google, they're all going to start to have diminishing returns, right? They're getting further and further away from like our kind of like core audience, but there's still a lot of expansion opportunities there with still staying within like a healthy CAC to LTV ratio.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing goes for paid.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. If you look at the whole company altogether, putting all your products together over the past 12 months, what was growth rate?
So like year over year for the past 12 months?
Yeah.
We'll call it 60-70%ish.
You like that number? Happy, sad?
Everyone wants to be growing faster, right?
Not always. You sound like you got a pretty good life, man.
No, I wish we were growing faster.
Would you ever go raise capital to do that?
Yeah, I'm open to it.
What would be the right kind of deal, you think? Maybe in the terms of amount you'd want to raise?
I'm kind of in the point of like the business and my career right now that it's kind of like, all right, I guess when I was starting out, it was much more kind of like lifestyle business. Now I'm much more kind of like go big or go home type focus. So, larger versus smaller amounts.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm asking is like, if you go out, I mean, are you going to try and target raising $1 million and giving up very little percent of the company, or go raise 10 million and give up something more like 10 or 20%?
I'm comfortable giving up a higher percentage, 10, 20, 30, whatever. Like I said, I'm kind of more go big, go home.
Yeah, that's good. What changes in a mind like yours to have that approach? Because the other approach would be, I've got 120 people, I'm profitable, I can do whatever I want whenever I want to do it, right? I'm doing X amount of revenue, I can just pay dividends and get rich that way, which is very different than going out and raising a bunch of money and hoping that you can go to $100 million in ARR.
I think, I guess when I started this business, I was like, I want to make enough money to survive and not have to go back to a real job. That was like mindset number one. Mindset number two was like, man, it'd be pretty sweet if I could like put enough cash in my bank account so that like I didn't have to stress out about this. Like if this thing did disappear overnight, like that's what all entrepreneurs worry about, even though it never happens. Like if this thing disappeared overnight, like I would still have enough time to like start something else up. So I still wouldn't have to go back and get.
By the way, Greg, that always happens. That's why people worry about it. Most companies go out of business.
Not overnight though. There's indicators.
Yeah.
So that was like mindset number two. And then like after like achieving that, I think mindset now is like, what would be like the coolest thing or like most fun thing I could do here? And for me now, it's like, hey, let's try to blow this up and go to 100 million ARR plus.
Yeah. What's your goal for like this year? Like a stretch goal that makes you uncomfortable?
As far as ARR?
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. You can never have enough of it. There's never a point where you're like, all right, I'm growing fast enough. Like, we don't need any more customers.
That's totally true. I'm just curious if, 20 or 30 million, like what feels like a stretch goal to you? Something you probably won't hit, but if you hit it, you're like drinking wine in Austin and you're buying out, the Barchi sushi bar and clinking champagne drinks with your team.
Let me think about it. I'll get back to you over drink and dinner.
Okay, fair enough. Good answer. And then look, we'll wrap up here with the famous five. But first, I think I've got one of these numbers wrong, or I'm just going to be really impressed. 63,000 customers, right, which is 1/3 of your 210 paid. If the ARPU you gave me was accurate at $60, and it's totally okay if it's not because you have multiple products, we'll fix it. But if I multiply 60 times 63,000, that puts you at almost $4 million a month right now in revenue. Are my numbers accurate there?
Little high. The $60 was just for our web product, not for our Chrome extension. If you do total blended, it pulls that number down.
Yeah. I mean, my gut tells me because it's $197 on the Chrome extension that ARPU across the base is probably more like $25 or $30. Would you agree with that?
Off the top of my head, ballpark sounds right.
Okay. So, I mean, that would 30 times 63,000 customers would put you more like 2 million a month right now. Are you north of 2 million a month?
You're close enough in the ballpark.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, if you give a stretch goal where if you hit 2.5 million per month by the end of this year, you'd be a happy camper.
Happy? I wouldn't be ecstatic.
I'm just curious, how aggressive you want to be. Okay, you're a hard guy to please. Then, are you single? Are you single or married?
Married.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. I don't want to play. I want to see you and the spouse play Scrabble or something and get a better sense of how aggressive you are. All right, fair enough. So we'll call it 2 million ish a month today. You said you grew about 60-70% year over year. So we'll call that obviously something like 1.2 ish a month a year ago, driving nice growth. Let's wrap up with the famous five. Number one, what's your favorite business book?
4 Hour Workweek's probably been like the most influential on like my just kind of like life or career trajectory. So I think I have to throw that out there.
Yeah. Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying?
I mean, who doesn't like Elon Musk?
Do you own a flamethrower?
I don't own a flamethrower. I do have a Tesla though.
There you go. You got half. You got
I
the
support him a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Number three, what's your favorite online tool?
Probably say Zoom.
Okay.
A lot of remote employees now. It's so much better than Hangouts or even Skype or whatever else. Love Zoom.
It's true. Number four, how many hours of sleep you get every night?
6 to 7.
And you mentioned married. Any kids?
No kids.
All right. And how old are you?
31.
Last question, Greg. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
To take more risks earlier and just don't be scared of really changing things up.
Guys, take more risks. He's got 63,000 paying SMBs and even micro businesses using him to sell more and more profitably on Amazon. Call it paying on average $30 a month. So north of 20 million bucks right now in terms of run rate. That's up 60% year over year as he's driven growth mainly through his Chrome extension and his web-based tool and these communities that he's playing in, whether it's a Reddit community or Facebook group. They've done this all bootstrapped, which I love. 120 folks on the team, call it 80% annual revenue churn. So obviously trying to fix that. Looking to drive expansion revenue here with some updated pricing in the coming months. In the meantime, Greg, man, we're rooting for you. Thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you for having me on.